I moved to Thailand because I wanted to make progress in my agency. And at first, this was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. But during my time here, I realized that I can use exponential focus and essentialism to make working towards my goals feel effortless. I realized that progress doesn't always come from doing more, but sometimes it comes from thinking about less and letting your brain do most of the work. How essentialism works, at least how I interpret it, is that you focus on 1 to 3 things that are important to you and let everything else take a backseat. So my 3 things were family, fitness and work, with work being the priority right now, at least for this season of my life, because I realized that the biggest constraint on my life was the fact that my agency isn't where I want it to be just yet. So even within my essential few, 2 of them have to take a slight backseat. So that would be family and fitness, because I'm in a season of my life where work is the priority. What most people do is they pretend that everything's equally important. And that's why they never make any meaningful progress in any one thing, and that's why they never manage to do anything special with their lives. How that links to exponential focus is the fact that to make any real progress in something like an agency, your mind has to obsess over it. So you have to think about it for at least 10 hours a day, because you get good at what you're thinking about most of the time. The person who wins isn't usually the person who's working the longest hours. It's the person whose mind's locked in on the same problem for the longest amount of time. So if you're trying to make progress in multiple things at a time, your brain can't possibly obsess over any one of them. Your shower thoughts become contaminated, and you no longer get those ideas at 3 a.m. that you wake up and change everything for your business. The human brain has around 85 billion neurons, and all of them are designed to solve our problems and help us move towards our goals. The thing is, with most people, they split all of that processing power across 30 different things. Every Netflix series, every game you play, every scroll session, all of that becomes open loops in your brain, and your brain keeps processing them in the background. Your brain can't fully obsess over your goals if it's invested in 14 different Netflix storylines and 300 different pieces of content that you just scroll through every morning. That's why I gave up video games a long time ago. That's why I don't scroll on social media, and that's why I don't watch any Netflix series. Because no matter what you do, all of those things, they just become open loops in your brain, and they take away your processing power from your goals. So if you're trying to build a business and you're scrolling social media and you're still watching Netflix series, the problem is your brain prioritizes all of those things equally. So if you're trying to build a business but you're still playing video games and you're still scrolling TikTok, problem is your brain prioritizes the business, TikTok, and the video games equally. Your brain doesn't automatically know what's important to you. It only knows what you give your attention to. The brain doesn't have context. Now, I spoke about the results threshold in my last video, and what it basically means is that most people think results are linear. So if you put 20% of your effort in, then you get 20% of results. Now if you put 90% of your effort in, then you get 90% of results. But that's not how success works. Most people never get any real results because they never cross the threshold for momentum to kick in. They never focus hard enough for long enough. So from their perspective, it feels like nothing's working for them. But if you do focus for hard enough and long enough, and you reach the results threshold, say 90%, then the returns become exponential. After the 90% mark, tiny increases in focus, they create disproportionately large outcomes. That's why someone who's fully obsessed with their craft, they look like they're moving 10 times faster than everybody else. Not because they're magically more talented, but because their brain has been obsessed over the same thing for so long that it's built up momentum. And that's why I don't really believe that I'm disciplined. I think discipline is overrated. I don't force myself to work. I just remove everything that competes with the work. I make my work the most stimulating thing in my life, and that makes it easy. I don't need discipline anymore. Now, not everything can feel effortless, no matter how much you sacrifice. But if you can make work feel enjoyable, then you're gonna beat the guy that has to force himself to work and has to use discipline and willpower every single day. That is why I don't really use Instagram, I don't watch Netflix, and I don't play video games. Because every source of easy dopamine, it lowers the emotional weight of your goals. If your brain can get the same stimulation from 3 hours of scrolling on TikTok that it can from you making progress towards your goals in business, then your brain's gonna automatically default to scrolling on TikTok because it's so much easier and it's getting the same amount of results. Remember that the brain only sees ones and zeros, it doesn't have context. So I protect my attention aggressively. I have all of my notifications turned off. I get my fulfillment from work, from YouTube, from solving problems in the business. And the crazy thing is, once you remove all of those distractions, it becomes easy to do the work. Stop needing motivation all the time because your mind naturally defaults to doing the work. Now, my last point is that most people are trying to build success, but their mind is so overcrowded. They're trying to add success into an already overcrowded mind. What the top entrepreneurs and top athletes do is the complete opposite. They remove things. They remove every distraction, every vice, until their goal becomes unavoidable. That's what you should be doing. And if you like the video, then like the video, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions, and I'll see you next week.